Okay, back on camera. Creating an org chart. You've got work to do. You've got work that you want to get done in the next 14 weeks, 13 weeks, whatever the time frame is we're looking at here. And one of the first things you're going to have to do, and you know, a lot of you said, well, I want to know what it's like to code in a team. Okay, get ready for reality to hit. You're going to have to decide who gets what titles or what roles. And that can often be, in the real world, a tricky or sensitive thing. Why do you have an org chart? You want a division of labor. You don't want everyone trying to do everything. You can freely exchange ideas, you can help people out, you can do that, but what you want is a division of labor so that you can divide up as far as the labor can be divided up. You can divide it up among the members of the team. You want to focus talents and interests. A number of you said, well, I'm really interested in doing this. You know, I want to do coding, or I want to learn project management, or so on and so forth. So this is an opportunity in your teams to look for, within the context of what you're trying to build, those opportunities to focus on the interests and talents that you feel you bring to the table. You want to make responsibility clear. You don't want people to be able to hide out. In other words, you as a team with your anywhere from 5 to 9 members should be able to tell each week, and typically what we're going to do, our pattern from here on out is that the last half hour of the class from 4 to 4:30 is going to be in-class team meetings. And what I want you to use that for is to report to each other, if you haven't already, what you're doing and to figure out what you need to accomplish this week and who's going to do what. You want lines of your communication that reflect the target architecture. I don't know how many of you remember reading, assuming you read it, in Mythical Man Month, his reference to Conway's Law, which is that the architecture of the system under development reflects the communications organization of the group developing it. In other words, your app, your software program, your system actually reflects the architecture of the organization itself. I've seen this up close and personal. I have a link here to an article. I kid you not, I reviewed a project, I think I mentioned the $500 million lake project at Fannie Mae that I reviewed. And this was my mental picture of the organization and the architecture. It was just convoluted. And there was a reason why they had spent 4 years and $500 million, $500 million, and they literally had no code that could go into production. None. So, with your org chart, you want it to reflect the lines of communications to reflect what you're trying to accomplish. You want to, oops, come on. You want to align individual goals with team goals. I have another reading here. I've actually posted a few new readings out in the readings tab at CS 428 site, which you should be reading. And I'll post these slides out there as well. You all took time today to talk about why you're in this class. When you meet at 4 o'clock as teams for the first time, one of the things you need to address is what you want to accomplish as being a member of that team. And figure out how to set up the goals for your team to accomplish that. I have done this professionally. It is a very effective approach. Because when a developer or architect or graphic designer or project manager, whatever your role is, can say, here's what I'm hoping to accomplish personally. These are my goals. This is why I'm working here. And as a team, you say, okay, I see how what we're working for as a team will help me accomplish those. You get a degree of buy-in and a willingness to accept the pain, the very natural and sometimes sustained pain that comes from a real-world software project. because you know it's achieving your goal. If you see a disconnect between your professional and personal goals and what the team or your company is trying to accomplish, hello.
Hello. Hi, I'm here with the master student. Wanted to just get some surveys done.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, we're going to take a break in like 5 minutes,
Okay.
and we'll do it then. We have a researcher who wants to do a survey of computer science seniors. So we're going to take a break in about at 10 till, and they'll do the survey. They said it'll be like a 5-minute survey. So these are the things you want to keep in mind. I'll have these slides up there. Possible roles on an org chart. I want every team to have as distinct roles a project manager and a chief architect. I am an absolute believer, because I have seen it as a point of failure time and again, in the need to have a separate manager and a separate chief architect, and to have a manager and a chief architect. When I'm asked to go in to review troubled projects, either as a consultant or when I have done it as a expert witness, one of the questions I ask is, who's the chief architect? And what I usually find, if it's a troubled project, is no one can answer that, or I get a bunch of different answers, which in some ways is even more scary. My very first consulting job at Eric on the Motorola Iridium network management subsystem, that was the question I asked, who's the chief architect? And I literally got half a dozen different answers. Yes?
So along those lines, I've worked at a couple different places, and I've never had on our team an architect. It's always a manager, and he seemed to blur the lines between the two. So can you explain how to
What's the
separate
difference?
those? Yeah.
Yes, because I've done both. At Pages, when we started Pages, it was a startup. We were running off the founders' funds, and I was fulfilling both roles as manager and chief architect, and there's an inherent conflict of interest. Because the architect wants to make the architecture as good and solid as possible. The manager is there to run the team and make the hard calls and the hard decisions. And if you have the same person doing both, it's kind of like building a building and having what would be a good example? Having the chief building architect also be the business manager for the building project. There are conflicts there. And it is very common to merge the two. If you go back to Mythical Man Month, when Fred Brooks talks about his 20 years later, he teaches a class in software engineering and says that he reached the point where he would always make sure that each team, it was much like this, you'd have projects in class, each team always had a separate manager and a separate software engineer. Manager is there to make sure the project gets completion. The architect is there to think deep thoughts and to come up with solutions that will encompass what you want to implement when you start to implement it. Other roles you can look at, the designers and or developer, quality assurance, librarian or configuration management, user experience, user interface designer, tool builder, graphic sound, music artist, technical writer. I made more money as a technical writer for a couple of years than I would ever be making as a software engineer back in the 80s. I was being paid like, 50 grand for a manual because I knew how to program and I was writing user manuals and reference guides for development tools. Yes?
Is it bad practice? So, for instance, if we have a group of like 6 people and you don't have enough, say someone has to do music, but you don't have enough people, like is it bad practice for people to assume 2 roles?
Oh, heavens no.
Okay. Oh,
Note the last point there.
Yeah.
But what you want to do is define the roles. You want the deliverables that each role is responsible for. You want gatekeeping authority. Now this is where it becomes distinction. The question to ask for each box that you create on your org chart is, what is this person the gatekeeper for? Meaning the person who has go, no-go authority. If I'm a graphic designer, it's kind of like, I'm not giving you the graphics until I'm happy with it. Now the manager's role is to override people when it's the classic story. of a group of tourists in Italy watching this old famous artisan doing these hand-carved wooden doors. And finally someone gets up and they're watching in silence. And finally this one woman gets up in the nerve and approaches him and says, "Excuse me, sir, how long does it take you to finish one of these doors?" And he looks up with sadness and says, "I never finish them. They come and take them from me." That's what the manager has to do. He or she has to come and take the stuff from the other roles. You want clear communications, a description that's clear. I don't know. It dates back decades. Silicon Valley has this whole concept of silly name titles. There's actually a Tumblr account where you can sit and I kid you not, you will see, if you go to Silicon Valley, you will see name title, or you see job titles like this. It's kind of like, well, this is cool and edgy, and you want to have stuff that means something. You want to make sure the role is clear, even if the title is not. Okay, and oh yes.
I imagine that the majority of people in this class are going to be wanting to code, like we all like to program. But like the project manager and like, this isn't like saying these people can't do.
No, it isn't, because again, with Pages, I was not only chief architect and for the first year and a half the project manager, I wrote more code than anyone else. In fact, as architect, I saw that as part of my job was not only write more code, I was also the best debugger on the team because I understood the architecture, I could come up with it. And so when there were problems, I could usually track them down faster than anyone. So I was also did a lot of QA. With that, we're going to take a bathroom break. We've got surveys here. Why don't we go ahead and hand these out?
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. This is it, and we're going to start. I've got another lecture starting when we're done with these surveys, and all are back in bathroom breaks. We're going to talk about the readings we've done so far. We'll take another break at 3:50. Okay, let's get started again. Okay. Walking with grace here. So, as teams, your major assignment, you have two major assignments for this week. First is create the wiki for each of your projects on GitHub.
This is on
The GitHub, yeah, the GitHub, yes. And if you have questions, email Joseph, because I have no clue how to do it.
Wait, so, question then. So, do you know if this wiki is supposed to be like if we create like our own GitHub for the project, should it be on that wiki, or does he want the wiki on like the class?
He wants the wiki on the class GitHub so we can all see it.
All right.
Can we
At least I'm pretty sure that's what he wants.
we link it to
Well, you-
our actual Git projects wiki?
If you have an actual Git project wiki, you can link it to that. So, Joseph can clarify that. Again, Joseph's done this before, I haven't. And you need to create an org chart, whatever you want to use. Whether it's, Visio, Microsoft Word, Excel, what?
Are you going to into detail what's supposed to be on that wiki?
Well, for starters, you just have a wiki. This is where all your deliverables are going to go. In other words, when you start you'd want to migrate, for example, over the text that you have for your projects. Saying, here's what the project is, here's what's going to happen. This is going to be your repository, where as you create stuff, it's going to live on your wiki. So when you're capturing things like org charts, PERT charts, design decisions, things like that, they will be here, both so that your team can see them and so that Joseph and I can see them. Now, you need your org charts in, and I'll have Joseph send out an email just to clarify anything about where this should be exactly on GitHub and so on. But you need to have your org chart in by Saturday night. I'm going to build a presentation with all your org charts. I think we have 5 projects this we ended up with. And I'll put them each up, and I'm going to want someone And you can decide who, whoever's you want as your spokesperson for the team to explain, okay, here's what we came up with, this is why we did it. And you may get feedback from the class members, you may get feedback from your Joseph. That's how we'll start out next week. So, any more questions on that? And I will ping Joseph to make sure he's clear on the instructions there.
I think we have a question.
Yes?
Wait, so is that the like project organization chart, like
That-
the?
That's your chart for your team. It's basically the roles. It's like, here's the project manager, here's the architect, here's
Okay.
here's the grand poobah for QA.